Yo, what's up, people? Here we are back again. Hopefully, this will be episode 37 if I can get my shit together. Yeah, I feel like I have a lot to unload on this one. You know, I wanted to do 2 podcasts this week. It appears it's just going to be this one. And, hey, that's good. If it's good, then fuck it. We'll just do the one. A little bit later in the episode, I'm going to be talking about, if you guys haven't heard of them, the Young Turks. Check them out. It's a kind of a pseudo news type of organization, I guess. You know. And now here's the thing I'm going to say right off the gate. A lot of this is just me kind of spilling my guts and just trying to get out how I feel about the situation. There's going to be some clips in this particular one that's going to be talking about how they feel about Jordan Peterson. And if anyone's watched any of my or some of my more recent podcasts, you know, I've briefly talked about him. People have their feelings about him. But this definitely goes into how people get a piece of a clip, and then off of that judgment, you know, they make their, or off of that information, they make their judgments, their decisions. You know, and that's one of the better parts of, like, the podcasting forum and generally the long form conversation is, if you aren't lazy and you just allow yourself the time to listen, or if you have the time, and if you don't, I'd say don't judge until you do have the time. But that's what's good about the podcasting forum, is that it's long form, meaning the context is a long form conversation, and you know, over a spectrum of things and feelings, and people get to ask questions, they get to answer these questions without you know, such a confined space and time. You know, that being said, that doesn't stop people from just picking tiny spots within those things. I mean, they were masterful at doing that with Joe Rogan, you know, which honestly didn't turn out so well. He's just gotten more popular, and why shouldn't he? Because he didn't really do anything wrong. You know, he questioned things. He was a little out of his depth and trying to bring people on to validate his own personal situation somewhat, but they were still long form conversations, and they still revealed a lot more information. He still got checked on some of those things, you know, and these people were just like, he's over there fucking snorting horse pills, you know, gobbling up horse pills with the ivermectin thing, which turned out that that's been used for human consumption way before he even knew what the fuck it was. But that speaks to culturally where we're at as far as the things we try to defend and where people are at in fear-mongering, and a lot of times fear-mongering themselves before they spread that insanity into the world. Just fucking, you know, oh my God, he said something that kind of triggers something about how I actually feel about this. You know, it makes me scared that he might expose my feelings and the feelings of the people above me who pay my checks, and we might have to. So actually, yeah. So we're going to go to war with that. We're going to go to war with the trigger, and not with what he's actually saying. You know, which is obviously, to me, necessary. the long conversation, the things that trigger you, that means those are things that you need to discuss and talk about. This is probably going to be, I don't know, no comedy or a lot less. I wanted to put out a couple of podcasts, but really this one has been weighing on my mind. I mean, people, you have no idea unless you try to do something like this. And you know what? Anyone can probably get a fucking inkling, you know, or definitely more of going into something, hoping that what you're going to be presenting, it sounds lucid, it makes sense to at least some of the people watching. It doesn't have to make sense to all. I mean, we've got the KKK, we've got the Proud Boys, we've got Antifa, you know, we've got all these different factions spreading their fucking bullshit. So you expect, even if you're lucid, for it not to reach everyone. It's only reached like 7 people, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe 20 on a good day. But yeah, man. So I've been sitting here baking in the heat, watching these fucking videos. I mean, baking in the heat. I'm pretty fucking sure, because it hasn't been raining, and if it does rain in the next few days, a piece of that cloud is my fucking sweat. Like, I've sweated like 20 fucking pounds in the past 2 fucking days. So if it does fucking rain at some point, if it rains on you and you're in Hawaii and you suddenly feel the urge to be like, fuck everyone, where's the bomb? That's probably part of my sweat getting onto you. And I was gonna try to ad lib, you know, put a few things in, because just in case I get stuck and I'm just like, oh yeah, you know, because look, I am by no means intellectually inclined, even though obviously I kind of feel like I am if I'm even trying to fucking do this shit. But like, I know there's a lot of holes in my game, but the only thing I really want to say is, let's just ask ourselves some questions about when you hear something on your favorite channel and they show you a tiny little clip of something, you know, because that suits their narrative. No matter how loosely or how profoundly it suits their narrative. You know, sometimes people can be right on the money with the context they're trying to show, but a lot of times it's a fucking spin campaign. You know, and understand this, for all of the people who have heard these clips about this one particular guy, Jordan Peterson, and have come to those conclusions, even more so than a Joe Rogan who's just kind of, you know, off the cuff, you know, just having conversation. Like, I would say listen to him long form, or even more so, if you're gonna hear any of these things that people are saying, before you make your judgments, listen to it long form, because I can guarantee you that they have spoken out of context on most things that most people say about Jordan in a negative light. And generally speaking, his long form conversation gets you to at least say, I get it, I understand. And those he definitely self-deprecates, you know, or calls himself out, or says, these are just my ideas. You know, if somehow I'm grossly wrong, then, you know, for something that I don't understand, like, said something like that. And this one that they're talking about, which they completely don't even acknowledge, which is what we should all do. We're all going to have our thoughts on these things. We're all going to have our ideas about what we think should be said. But at the end of the day, we're just a single human. And so a lot of the things, even if you can get outside of your own personal perspective, are still going to be filtered in through your perspective. It has to come through that filter as well. And then inside of that, if you're aware that it came through your perspective, then you can start to break that down and say, okay, this is because of something that happened when I was 15. I heard that, what they actually said is this. You know, I don't always, just because they said this doesn't mean it means that. I mean, one word can mean a couple of different things depending on the context. A few different things depending on the context. So I think it's very important that we do that. And also, just because something scares you doesn't mean you shy away from it. A lot of times, if it scares you, and it's not like a physical threat, it's just something that in your mind you're like, no, because, well, you should go towards that. You should shoot towards that and figure out why the fuck it's scaring you so much. Because then you'll begin even more to figure yourself out. And if you have any inclinations of being self-aware, I mean, this is always going to be a positive thing, even if it hurts. You know, and if it hurts right from the outset, you definitely need to explore it. So, with that being said, let's hit the first clip. All right, so this is Anna. Oh man, this is just getting started, but yeah, this is how she starts, how she feels about Jordan. Just have a listen.
In a recent video, he actually tried his hand at geopolitical analysis, and it didn't go so well. Now, here he is floating a theory, a big brain idea, that Russia actually invaded Ukraine because of wokeism here in the United States. And he uses Ketanji Brown Jackson as an example to make his point. Let's get to the next video.
And are we degenerate in a profoundly threatening manner? I think the answer to that may well be yes. The idea that we are ensconced in a culture war has become a rhetorical commonplace. How serious is that war? Is it serious enough to increase the probability that Russia, say, will be motivated to invade and potentially incapacitate Ukraine merely to keep the pathological West out of that country, which is a key part of the historically Russian sphere of influence?
What?
Yeah. No, I love this so much, Anna, because they think he's an intellectual. All right, there's a couple of different things here. The Ukraine point is hilarious. I'm going to get to that in a second.
Yeah, so they're basically going to start to break him down, because he said, are we not degenerate in a profoundly threatening manner? Has anyone looked outside? Has anyone seen the protests? Does anyone remember January 6th? Have we mentally, morally, and pretty much in any other psychological capacity degenerated to a point that everyone internally seems to be second guessing themselves and fearing the worst, either whether it poses a threat to their own personal ability to live inside themselves and pretend like nothing's going on. That is at threat, while also projecting something to hide that fear, which is any type of movement, almost any type of movement, which has dubious, false pretext. It doesn't come off as anything built to be real and built to last, because it's put out in front. It's a veneer of what's going on. I don't really think there's anyone who thinks there's 37 different genders, but there are plenty of different gender profiles. There's plenty of different people who like different things, and that goes across a wide spectrum. But to then bleed that into the school system, saying if you want to get your shit chopped off at 9 years old, go right ahead. I think there's a real serious problem. So, yeah, have we degenerated in that way enough to affect the rest of the world? I mean, I say absolutely. Roe v. Wade was overturned, and then other countries, because of that decision, decided to put in place laws that protected people as far as abortion. Other countries looking at us decided to do that. Like, there's a lot of people paying attention to us. So whether we understand this or not, or whether we want to agree and hold any type of responsibility, you know, and it doesn't have to necessarily be personal. Just because everyone or a lot of people in this country are doing something doesn't mean you are personally responsible for that happening, but you are in this country, a country that is a part of something that is happening in a bigger way, that is influencing or affecting other countries and sometimes a negative or positive way. I would definitely say our way is negative, but sometimes, but at this point, other countries are looking at us and literally passing laws so that these things don't get in the way. These don't become hiccups in their country. So to even think that that's not a possibility, that we degenerated mentally and societally to the point that we are affecting the rest of the world. We've been touting this for at least the last century, that we are the greatest country in the world. We're number one. You know, we helped these people win this war. By the way, while simultaneously participating and sometimes heading nefarious acts that affected other countries. You know, things that are coming out all the time that we did. And as far as how that affects us as the common people, the degenerative part for us is the propaganda that has been put in front of us to fool us, that a lot of people have bought into. And even the ones that haven't, it has still hurt them to see it happening. And it still affects them. I'd like to consider myself one of those people. You know, I don't consider myself a Republican or a Democrat or any of those fucking things. You know, I'm a Toddocrat. That's all I am. My name is Todd. So, and that's the only thing I want to be, is more of me. You know, but to say that these things that are happening have not affected me. The pandemic most definitely affected me. The things that people would say just after Trump was elected, the things that people were saying when Obama was elected, all of these outrageous and outlandish things that most of them I just let go. Yeah, but they affected me. They chipped away slowly, definitely. You know, and you have to try to shore up and be like, okay, this isn't that, don't let this affect you and all that stuff. But that's not to say that it does not have an effect. It does. I mean, where are we at? People are literally considering, what's her name, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene as legitimate parts of Congress and as a legitimate line of thinking when they are literally the fringe. But people are considering them as a legitimate, like, psychological and all right, actually psychological definitely, but like theological and intellectual way of describing where we are and what the right is thinking and all that shit. I even hate saying that shit because fuck the right and left. Fuck them both. Most of those fuckers are crazy. But those two in particular, and a few others, the Ted Cruz's, are definitely out of their fucking minds and shouldn't even be sitting in those seats. And the fact that they are is proof of how degenerated our society has become. So yeah, that's definitely credible. What? Well, stop and think, girl, before you say what. Stop and think. Now, here Jay tries to say the reason why people that followed Jordan Peterson's lectures, this is why they do it.
No, I love this so much, Anna, because they think he's an intellectual. All right, there's a couple of different things here. The Ukraine point is hilarious. I'm going to get to that in a second. But I realized as I watched that a couple of times what he's doing and why they think he's an intellectual. because he uses words like ensconced.
Mm.
So they don't know what it
Good
means.
word.
His followers don't know what it means, so they think, wow, this guy's so smart. And he will casually throw in things like in and of itself. Like it's not.
Is that a fancy word?
No, but it sounds like he's having, like he's professorial, right? Like, and he said, and then, are we deranged in a profoundly threatening manner? Like, there's like theoretically big words in there. Like
I think
profound.
you're deranged. Yes, I do think.
All right, yeah, I definitely already explained what I think that means, and you can agree with me or not, but that's what I think it means. Ensconce is definitely just talking about kind of being settled in a spot, you know, in a way of thinking or position in a manner, but also kind of that manner being secret. So, are we ensconced in a culture war, kind of in a way that is deceptive to most people? Absolutely. And that's all he's saying by being ensconced. And by the way, all you have to do is look words up. And so, to even imply that people aren't able to understand that is already condescending in a way. And you know, yeah, I don't even know what else really to say about that. It just seems pretty, you know. Already you're saying like, but he's using words you don't even understand. Like, no one has fucking Google. All you have to do is look something up to understand it. I literally just fucking explained the word, and I will give you this. There are a lot of times where I do have to look up the things that somebody like a Jordan Peterson is saying, and I'm happy for it. Anyone who wants to learn, they should be happy for things that they haven't heard before. It means you can learn something else. So if anything, promote that. But you guys are not even on that wavelength. And here's the thing. Not every time, but I like the Young Turks. And I don't agree with everything that Jordan Peterson says. Maybe to my detriment on some of those. And I'm pretty sure to my legitimacy on the things I don't agree with the Young Turks, such as this. Such as is trying to characterize someone as something that they're obviously not. Like picking out sound bites of what they did. Oh, we're just getting started. Alright. On with Jank.
And so, Jordan Peterson here. Now to the main point on Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine because they were worried about how America is too woke.
Mm.
No, come on.
No.
Can anyone be that unintelligent to believe that that's true? That Putin was so worried about our moral fiber in America, and that it may spread to Ukraine, which might then spread to Russia. And so he thought, I'm going to risk my whole legacy, my military, our entire economy, maybe even getting killed myself when people are because I'm worried about Ketanji Brown Jackson and trans people and woke. Are you insane?
Yes,
you think
he's
thought
insane.
that?
He's insane. Listen.
Right. Okay. Now, this is a lot to unravel. Because, first of all, everyone knows, or not everyone knows, I shouldn't say anything like that. For those who know, they know that this has a lot to do with NATO, which America is a part of, and Ukraine extending a hand, NATO extending a hand to Ukraine, you know, or an invitation to Ukraine, you know, to come join them, which would then put the whole NATO faction or NATO's territory right on the border of Russia, which Russia doesn't want. In no way, shape, or form did Jordan say that this was the sole reason that Russia invaded Ukraine. But is it a part of it? Is the insanity that has been happening for the past 7, 8 years, you know, and in the small insanities leading up to that, culturally, us becoming more and more and more deficient to where it's a powder keg is what America is, you know, already more than a cold civil war, bordering just an all-out hot civil war that could bleed into every fucking state in this country, including the one I'm in, which is why I'm in it, because it's literally physically not attached to the rest of America. One of the reasons why I'm here, but not the sole one, but part of it. So, and a question I had was, would Putin be doing this right now if Trump never got in office? If that whole clown show had never been allowed to become what it was, which was pure stupidity and pure ignorance and lying to ourselves by acting like we some of us, a lot of us, by acting like we didn't know what could potentially happen. You know, and once again, the rest of the world, or some of it, or I think a lot of it, is looking at us and making decisions based on the things that we're doing. So, the culture war, which bleeds into the, it bleeds into Congress, you know, bleeds into the Senate and the House, and they use these cultural things even more to manipulate the populace and to further division, which then causes all types of things, and these laws and all these things getting passed that are changing lives in not a great way. You know, is everyone else looking at that and understanding culturally the cultural significance, and then also maybe not necessarily either not wanting to be a part of it or maybe gravitating towards it in some countries, and all of these different things, plus all of the political things that this affects when they are able to do this in a way to stay in power and then affect change that then affects other countries, like we haven't been doing that all along. So to say that our culture war has not bled into the rest of the world's awareness is a foolish fucking thing to say. It's absolutely foolish. And the fact that you would be so adamantly against it, to me, it shows that you're triggered, which to me shows that there is a microcosm at the very least of truth in what this person is saying, and you don't want to hear it. But this logic of what is he even saying is only to me seen in the logic of white people, and I'm very sorry to say that again. You know, but like when you think about how slavery just keeps coming back around. Either we are the slaves, or we can't even talk about them, which is a different form of slavery, and to do so means detriment to your career. Because if we can't talk about it, if we can't participate in it, it only puts us in a negative light. If we can't even say certain things. So if anyone says this, white people are saying, if anyone says this, then they are in trouble, which is still them dictating how people should think and talk and act. Is that not still a form of slavery, mental as it may be? So, okay, and this is Anna. Now, I try to tell anyone who listens to this guy what she feels you should be doing, or how you should proceed.
For some of the young men who might be watching, some of the young men who turn to people like Jordan Peterson for guidance, okay? Please don't I understand how a lot of young people in this country, particularly young men, are feeling. Okay? Our society has been dismantled in so many ways, our institution.
Do you understand how we are feeling? That is like me saying I understand how it feels to be pregnant. You can't possibly understand. And you can empathize. You can sympathize. But you were not there. You were not in our bodies. So you do not know. Were you going to say how you understand how black people feel next? You're a woman. So be a woman. And choose your words more carefully.
Have been dismantled. It feels like there's no future, there's no hope. But if we fight together, we can fight for a better country, a better world. I know we can get there. Turning to someone who supports the very dismantling of the system that has caused so much pain and suffering ain't the answer.
Okay. And that's another point I wanted to get to. Supports. He supports it. Okay. All right. Let's see how he supports it. Right from the outset, this is what he says. Okay, here we go.
I want to say at the outset that I think what Putin has done is unconscionable. God only knows what the impact will be as all four of the horsemen of the apocalypse are on the march again. I also think that the collusion of the leadership of the Russian Orthodox Church is even more unforgivable. Be that
as it may, look, I mean, this is an hour-long presentation, and honestly, I don't have all the time to go into it all, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get copyrighted at some point here. But even if it's just to get the point across, and at some point after I'm dead in 15 years, if this has the possibility of getting monetized and it doesn't. So obviously they didn't show this on their feed, where he seemingly to me denounces the atrocities that Putin and the Putin regime and the Russian regime have committed in Ukraine, which is also why, which I guess I kind of got this line of phrasing from him. Always look at things in a multivariate way. You know, the way we think, the way things are happening is never just how we think it is. There's always a spectrum of things that are going on. And what we've discovered over time is that, yeah, a lot of it is nefarious. You know, a lot of it has to do with a lot of things and a lot of things, that information of which we are not privy to. You know, so here you have this man who is saying this, you know, blah, 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 about the four horsemen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's got to be talking about like China, like Korea. I don't know, Japan and Russia. I don't know. Some of them, at least a few of them. But yeah, this guy has always thought in more than one way. You know, people have consistently tried to paint him in this either like fascist or Naziist way of thinking, because a lot of the things that he said are thought-provoking, which bothers a lot of people who want to continue one train of thought. And if for 1 second you think this is not corrosive for these people who know I feel, you know, and I'm still not denouncing what, like, blah blah blah, like we want to do a movement, you know, we want to make things like better, can follow us, all right, but you don't do that out of fear. You do it out of like hope and out of understanding and trying to understand more things than you haven't, not by shutting them all down and not by denying the things that you know are the fucking that are the truth, or that have a position rooted in the truth. You know this man is not a Nazi. You know this is more along the lines of the things he's been saying before, which have pricked people, which is the reason why he gets so under fire, because he says a lot of things that gets under a lot of people's skin. Because it's legitimate questioning. It's questioning based in legitimate facts that he already knows, that other people know, that a lot of things he brings lightward are things that a lot of people don't even want to discuss. So you guys, and you've done this before, like, you're by no means what some of the people have said you are, and just a disgusting fucking trumpet for the left. You're not that. I've heard you call out the left. I still watch you. I'm still subscribed to you, and I'm also subscribed to Jordan Peterson, because you all have good things to say. Now, I will definitely say this from my side: definitely more him than you. I've definitely heard more self-understanding and self-analysis and self-deprecation, which I'm definitely a fan of. If you want to learn and grow, gotta break yourself down a little bit, and build yourself back up better with something else, with something better, hopefully, all the time. And that's not necessarily something that you all are great at, and I'm completely with you in like wanting to shut down anyone who wants to sexually harass. I don't know all the ins and outs of the Jimmy Dore thing, but I could totally see him being someone who uses his comedic charisma to try to throw more shade on you and all of that, which is, to me, seems completely unfair. And that being said, I wasn't there for any of it, so all you motherfuckers could be lying. But I'm just telling you, for the inflection that I hear from you and from him, and me having been around some smaller comedians, and the way they handle things, it's more easy for a person in comedy to come up with a charisma, if they're adept, if they're confident in this, that feeds their narrative, even if it is to the destruction or to the detriment of someone else. Who gives a fuck what you were wearing? No one deserves to be able to fucking look up your skirt and say whatever type of thing if something has not been established between the two of you as a decorum that you both present yourselves under. If the decorum is horseplay and all that stuff, I also think that has validation. But it obviously seems to me that it was not that. And so therefore, I side with you on that. I don't have any ill feelings against Jimmy Dore, other than that this seems a bit tasteless on his part. And I completely understand why you wanted to announce any of that in your place of work. So there's a lot of things that I agree with you guys on. That was just one of the more recent things that I've gotten to watch and see. But yeah, so I agree with that. But on the same token, I think I also agree with Jordan. And like I said, I don't agree with everything that he says. And then another thing is to sit there and say, "Don't listen to this person, young man. He's not going to get you laid." I don't know if she actually said that in this particular one, but she definitely says he's not going to get you laid. I'm a woman, trust me. Okay, so now what? Are we supposed to look at you as like a hot woman? And if anyone wants to have any chance with someone like you, they shouldn't listen to Jordan Peterson? Alright, first of all, that's bad to even insinuate that. And I don't like the undercutting of a person's consciousness, that presents. The subconscious level that is possibly invoked in some Neanderthalic, are men that are ruled by the balls more than the head. I don't like what that represents, or partially presents, and I think more on the lines of you should talk to everyone. Like, you shouldn't talk to Jeffrey Dahmer about fucking, oh, so what tastes better, fucking Mulata or German? Like, it shouldn't be that, but when we're talking on the lines of what we understand morally and everything, and if we want to learn more about what that means to all of us, then you should present yourself with more opportunities to learn from any spot that you can. And if something does prick you, that should be the thing you lean towards, because you should want to learn more about that and the reason why. You might learn about yourself, and I can guarantee this: learning about yourself will help you learn a lot more about a lot of other things. Not fast, slowly, organically, but it will help. What won't is shutting that off and then detrimentally trying to tell other people that they shouldn't. You got to understand that makes you part of the woke thing that he's talking about, which is to shut everything down. It's funny because the woke movement is so hypocritical, as in, we are now waking up to these things that no one should do, so if anyone represents these things, we destroy them. Is that not the opposite of what being woke is and acceptance is? Is to destroy the thing that you're saying is not being acceptable? Is that not you being unacceptable? And he's not saying anything. He's not pointing the guns at the Ukrainians, who, by the way, it's not like they're saints in all this. It's not like there wasn't propaganda in all of their actions too, or at the very least in some of them. Not all of them. Some of them. Very real people are being killed over there, and that is no good ever. But that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. And that's, it's supposed to be a progressive platform that you all want to represent. And once again, I agree with the sexual harassment angle. No good. Trying to play off of that, no good. Okay? But off a dialogue off of a conversation of what we are morally and how that affects things and all that, that's just another conversation that, by the way, you don't have to tune into. But to denounce, to me, speaks more about what you all know something is wrong with, and you're afraid to let that message get out. Or at the very least, it pricks you. No one knows me. There's going to be 3 people that watch this fucking thing. But yeah, feel free to fucking come with me. I guaranteed you're going to be able to find something that's not savory. I said a lot of horrible things. But it doesn't change the fact that what I'm saying is more than likely the truth. You know that. And once again, I can say that I could be wrong. Just a fucking clown in this living room, fighting off roaches.
Sir, you want to take his advice and clean your room? Clean your room. I make my bed every day. It makes me feel better, right? That's not going to solve your problems. This guy is a lunatic. He is crazy. And I promise you, whatever problems you're experiencing in life is not caused by the scapegoats that they're pointing to. It's caused by the people at the very top who have robbed us, who have robbed our institutions.
He's not the answer. He's a lunatic. Okay. Don't listen to him. He's a lunatic. This is not caused by the scapegoats that they're talking about. It's caused by the people that have robbed you. And how have they robbed us, Anna? How have they done that? What have they used to rob us? Have they not used all of these different cultural things that divide us to keep us divided? Have they not done that? Has that not made it easier for the people that are ruling in power to stay in power? By keeping us divided by racial tension, by adding the tension of all of these sexual obligations that now we have to participate in? Are those not things that have helped keep them in power? So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Okay. So here we find out how he's providing cover for Putin in invading Ukraine.
Final thing. I mean, look, we can make fun of that video, and we have. But understand, he's providing cover for Russia's invasion into Ukraine.
Oh, of course.
Right? And I don't know, so when he went to Russia to get treatment for his benzo addiction, was he convinced that, like, Vladimir Putin can do no wrong? I don't know. What happened there? Like, how do you look at what's happening in Ukraine with Russia's invasion and think, like, no, let me provide an excuse for why Putin did it and provide cover for why Putin did it.
So I put right at the outset, which once again they didn't show in their video, which how he said he denounces the things that Putin is doing in Ukraine, you know. But now they're literally putting words in his mouth. And this right here, this is the dangerous part. Because we're, you know, I talk about how this bleeds into our society, and I'm talking about black people. The reason why people like Candace Owens hates herself, and is a Trump supporter, but isn't really. She just hates black people, and that's because of this type of thing. Like he never said anything about providing cover, you know, but this mentality has been projected onto other people in this country for the past century at least. Yeah. You know, to where this is how you all act, so therefore we act. This is how we act, so therefore other people think we act that way. And even worse was the first thing I said. This is how we act, and so that literally bleeds into our culture. Like, we look at the Shaft characters, and the Foxy Browns, and all the other things, and all of those interactions between black characters and black on black characters, black on white characters, as the thing that's happening in the world, when it has literally been a projection of what of how they see us. And so when people acted outside of those norms, it's more accepted now. Like, I can get on here and talk and sound the way I sound now, and possibly people will listen and not think of me as some type of a sellout or anything like that. But that was the picture for decades. Man, well, you sounded so uppity. Man, you think you could talk? Shouldn't we want to be able to talk? And so be very careful about listening to, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say this in the way I'm saying it, but think of it in context and in a broader picture. White people with confidence and gumption, those same types of people have put biohazards into the oceans, you know, have fucking laid wasted villages with their fervor that we believe in, and they use that belief to destroy whatever it is to make them more powerful. All right, now I'm not saying that's what she's trying to do here, you know, but I'm saying on the same lines, you're coming with your fervor, saying something that is obviously not true, taking this guy's taking him completely out of context. When I don't know if you listen to the whole thing and it scares you, or if you didn't, you just took the talking points. But in no way is he saying that he agrees with what Putin is doing in Ukraine. He's speaking about the reasons why it's being done and going into to the semantics, even further talking about how I believe in certain ways Putin believes certain things as far as Orthodox Christianity, but where he's taking that as far as his own personal ambition, and using that to further his own goals, it is also obvious. And to how much those things balance each other, who's to say? These are none of the things that you all mentioned in your breakdown of what Jordan Peterson is doing, which when generally anyone I've heard who said they've listened to him long form have been like, oh shit. And so I would implore anyone listening to this to go back and listen to those things. I'm going to try to leave it in my description. Actually, the Young Turks video and the one with Jordan. I'm going to try to leave both of those in my description. Because this is gross. It's a gross mischaracterization of someone who, to me at least, and to most people that listen to him long form, I dare say anyone who listens to him long form, realizes that he's trying to be a voice for good and a better change. And they characterize him as this lunatic, Nazi, mischaracterizing themselves as the victims of being mischaracterized and being used in a negative way, when the only thing they're doing is denouncing what this guy's doing, not mentioning any of the positive benefits of the things that he says that will shake your heart, some of it, for the truth of it. And just saying he's a lunatic. If you want to get laid, don't listen to this. They talked about him being a Batman villain, looking like some type of villain. It was just, it's kind of disgusting. With that being said, am I going to unsubscribe to you guys? No. Okay? You're allowed to be human in this foolish as well. And I think the long-term conversation is more important than the ad-libs on the fringes, which is where you're at right now in this particular coverage. But that does not mean that you don't deserve to be listened to, and that you don't have a bigger picture yourself, and that everything you're serving is not to your own personal agenda. I believe Putin is. I believe a Trump is. I don't believe a Jordan Peterson is, and neither do you. But that doesn't mean that some of the things he's saying, which are true, at least to where I'm coming from, and I don't know a lot about a lot of these things, but just on the level of a genuine nature and what I've been able to deduce and understand from what he said, yeah, this is gross, and this is cancerous, and it's destructive to our society, and it speaks to a lot of the things he was talking about how degenerated we are. And you have a part of that cancer too. Anna, Jink. So be very careful. Just because you think you're better doesn't mean you are. You need to look in the fucking mirror, just like all the rest of us do.
Then rally behind him unquestioningly. And then, ironically, Jordan Peterson then comes in and pretends the real issue is culture wars, and that Putin has a big heart, and he's really worried about the moral decay of all of us. And that's why him taking over Ukraine in a bloody war and killing thousands of Ukrainians is the right and moral thing to do. You see how sick that is?
So we're not...
I do. I see how sick that you just said something that he never said. I see how sick that is. Man. I mean, it's to think that we've come this far, or we've sunk this far, when the ones who obviously have on the inside things that they want to see done right still trick themselves and still get caught up in their own inadequacies and how they haven't been able to point things out within themselves and therefore point them out within society. And then they project them onto someone who is just trying to help. Yeah, man. No good. Okay, let's just go to the next one.
That in and of itself does not provide indication of Western derangement. But when the self-same candidate was asked directly in an interview during the confirmation process, the very straightforward question, what is a woman? Which, granted, was a gotcha question, which only goes to show the severity of our current level of derangement, and so is no excuse for failure to answer. She said, I'm not a biologist. That is not a good answer.
That is not a good answer, but. Like, what is this?
I mean, look at the whole setting, man. He looks like a caricature of a Bond villain.
Listen, she didn't want to answer the transphobic question. You guys know that, okay? We all know what all you right-wingers are up to, right? It's a potential Supreme Court justice, a nominee who's sitting through a confirmation hearing, and you have these clown-ass senators, Republican senators, but, like, asking, oh, what is a woman? We all know why they asked that question, okay?
Of course we know why they asked that question. I gotta just note, really? I mean, you got her down there, going on a rant, which, by all intents and purposes, seems fervent and to the naked eye genuine, unless you've heard the rest of this in context. Then it definitely just seems more to me like projecting over your fear that this person is actually making some type of sense. In this, they're talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson and her being asked, what is a woman? And then her saying, I'm not a biologist. And then Jordan's feeling on that being, that is not a good answer. Which he definitely goes into, which they definitely completely cut the context out of. And he's right. It's not a great answer, Now this is where me and him don't necessarily agree, because where I understand what he means is, it's not a good answer as in it's a non-answer. It completely avoids any conflict whatsoever, which is probably favorable to her given the climate that she's in. But to anyone who is, it avoids conflict. More importantly, to anyone who's looking for a shtick, who's looking for something to latch themselves onto. So she just says, I'm not a biologist. And to his point, it negates the legitimacy of any type of gender precedence, which has been established since there was male and female. That was the precedence of gender. And slowly but surely we've gotten away from all of that. Like, honestly, man, I don't understand why. And this is not going to be able to make the news. So I'm going to space it apart from a lot of the other things, and just say that he's well within his rights for trying to understand and trying to come up with a better way to approach the subject that more addresses the legitimacies of what a woman is and what a man is. Was there a right answer in that situation? Probably not. But so when this veers off, because I can't put this shit on TikTok. I mean, why can't a woman and a man just fuck? you know, and it not be a big deal. Why can't a man and a man just fuck it and not be a big deal? Why can't a woman and a woman just, by all intents and purposes, fuck? I'm sorry, but I just think I guess that's fucking still, yeah, you know, face fucking. So yeah, I mean, that's fucking too, in a certain way. Why can't that happen? You know, why can't there just be a train meaning a human nut to butt train, a fucking, you know, just a chick in the front, and then a dude fucking her from behind, and then a dude fucking him, and then a girl behind with a strap on fucking that dude, and then somebody behind them fucking fucking that dude, and then somebody behind them, a chick behind them, fucking that guy with the strap on, all of different races. Wouldn't that be beautiful? I mean, not particularly to me, but I'm saying, who cares? Like, who cares? Why is this such a big fucking deal? You know, so he's talking about how pretty much she's the candidate because she's black. Actually, her saying about being I'm not a biologist, that was secondary. This is more about her being a candidate because she's black. And from what he says, I actually kind of agree. Actually, before we move on to that, look, this is just...
I would die if this was my dad. I would banish myself from public life. I'd be like, I can't do it, I'm gone, bye. I would strap him in a chair in a basement, and I wouldn't let him leave until he promises me that he'd stop embarrassing our family. What are you doing, bro? And let me just talk about Ketanji Brown Jackson and the idea that the only reason why she was nominated is because she's a black woman, and that was it. Contrary to what what people like Jordan Peterson believe, Ketanji Brown Jackson is very much qualified for the job. She proved that in her handling of the confirmation hearing. She proved that in her lengthy career as a judge. I'm not even going to entertain it. To just simply say, no, her qualifications didn't even exist, and the only reason why she got...
Okay. So I think that was a shot to Michaela Peterson. You know, to Mac, I would die if this is my dad. Like, I would lock him in the basement. You know, I mean, what are you doing? I mean, you don't want to point out fucking character flaws. What if I say I don't like that you're wearing that fucking extra eye makeup on the fucking sides? That you're being a bit too extra when we both know that those are not your real fucking eyebrows and your real fucking eyelashes. Huh? You know, but you're real, aren't you? Anyway, talking about how he's a Batman, like he's in there like, what is he doing in this setting, huh? And he's doing this and he's doing this, and you know, yeah, let's just rip apart everyone's character flaws. What the fuck is wrong with you people? A lot. You know, and there's a lot wrong with me, so I'll get off that. What he was saying about Miss Ketanji Brown Jackson, which was less about her. He mentioned that one thing about how she responded to something, but he said on the basis of electing her as putting that forth as the forefront of the reason why she was elected, as saying, I'm going to elect a black woman to the Supreme Court. When I heard that, my first thought was, Oh, fuck. That's not good. Like, you're literally creating more division. And that's the funny part. It's funny because I don't even think white people realize that they do these types of things. Like, I don't think she realized she's more detrimental than she is a help. I don't think Joe Biden realized he was being more detrimental than he was a help. Like, let's get out in front of it. Hey, we can show you all this because if we just dangle this in front of you like dogs, you'll just forget about everything else. Hi, hey, look, it's going to be a black woman. No, we're people. So you saying that, what does that do? Yeah, you're going to get a few fucking tail waggers that go, yeah. But for the most part, it's going to be a fucking division. You do not come out in the forefront. I don't understand anyone past a fucking high school debate team that would not understand this. You do not come out in front tactlessly talking about what you're going to do and how it's going to influence one side. You do not bring that out as the fucking forefront. Have some tact. I'm going to elect a woman, or I'm going to elect someone to the Supreme Court. Now, you may have your own feelings about who you want to be elected. Then you go about doing that privately, and then you let what you do speak for itself. You don't talk about that shit. Only a white person would be foolish enough to say, I'm going to do that. And only a white person would be foolish enough to think that that is a good idea. No black person, and I mean not one, say the Candace Owen types, but not one who professes to anything that any black person has gone through or seen or witnessed, looked at that and said, good idea to say that. Every one of us thought it was bad. And I dare anyone to fucking counteract that. I'm going to go ahead and call you a fool in advance. Not one of us thought that was good. It was another way for white people to divide even the white people that wanted to be on our side by saying, we're going to elect a black woman. Is that not what white people have been doing all this time with redlining? So you're just switching it. You're just saying now, because we didn't include you on anything because you're black. Now we are only including you because we're black. You are still claiming more than your share of the fucking power that you fucking should be claiming. And you're doing it in a foolish way that is going to help no one. It's going to do nothing but divide us. And for you to not be able to even understand how he was articulating that. Like, I question you even being in your job. If that level of understanding has not even reached you yet, then what are you doing on the stage? What are you doing on the stage? We don't need that. And we don't need a clown, an old fucking who has done enough racist things in his life. I don't hate him. Great, I suppose he didn't do horribly as a vice president, but let's be honest, he hasn't obviously been the greatest fucking father. You know, his kid is on crack. He's probably on crack right now. You know, he's old now, he's senile, or he's got dementia. You know, but whoever said that was a good idea, and this shows just how culturally fucked and degenerated we are. That anyone could think saying that would be in touch with what needs to be happening and the mentality we need to be going right now. I'm going to elect a black. Who the fuck? So anyone else is saying, like, well, I'm Mexican, but I've been grooming myself for this. I thought it was a possibility he might elect me. Well, I'm this, or I'm white, and I don't believe in any of the shit that they're saying, but now I'm going to start listening to my uncle, who says it's just against white people. So great. Let's divide it, and let's further divide it by getting your clown ass up there talking about his talking points, taking him completely out of context. Let's do that. Because it's better. You shouldn't even be ashamed of yourselves because you're not even aware. You're so pathetically in your own misery. You're not even aware of what to be ashamed of. But I see a crying child behind those dark lashes, young lady. And oh, here we go.
Got nominated by Biden is because she's a black woman is ridiculous. Biden nominating a black woman as Supreme Court Justice was important because that was a historic nomination in the Supreme Court that has traditionally been overwhelmingly white and male. Okay.
And you can't think past that, can you? We all know that. And I understand your guilt in articulating that. That is not what he was pointing out. He said, do not lead with saying, I'm going to bring, I'm going to appoint a black Supreme Court justice who's a woman. He said, Jordan said, do not lead with that. He said, going, saying, I'm going to appoint the most qualified person possible, and then allow for those things to align with that. So you can say, I'm going to appoint a capable person, the most competent person I can find, and then you go about looking for that person. If you are looking in the black community, good for you. But ultimately, it still allows even you to see past your own foolishness. And so for you to point out the obvious things, because it has been predominantly white and predominantly male, speaks to your guilt as a white person and your resentment as a woman. Both corrosive because you for the reasons, and not corrosive if you understood, but corrosive because you are unaware that you are presenting this, which inherently makes it a silent killer. It is poison, what you are projecting right now. But by all means, continue.
Okay, so putting someone in there who's a woman of color, who's also
woman of color. And what is a woman of color? Who started that trend? Woman of color. Was that not you people? Did we say that? We're just people. We're just villages. We're the Khans. We're the Mandingos. We're the Zulus. You call us people of color, not us. That is another white trick. But by all means, with your platitudes and your self-righteousness. Continue, Anna.
Incredibly qualified for the job is an important thing to do, the right thing to do, and it's one of the few...
Oh, and coming from you, that makes me feel so much better.
Good things that Biden has done in his administration.
Oh, and coming from you, that makes me feel so much better.
Sit down. You want to talk about qualifications, homeboy? You want to talk about qualifications? You just said that Russia invaded Ukraine over wokeism in the United States.
Partially. Which is the truth. Which we have already discussed. Homeboy. But we can definitely say you didn't pick that one up. From your mammy. Jesus Christ. Okay, here we go.
Finally, to wrap this all up, okay? So he goes on this rant about Ketanji Brown Jackson. What does that have to do with Russia's invasion into Ukraine again? Here's how he ties it all together.
Oh, can't wait.
And are not the Russians and the Hungarians and the Poles and the Indians, to a lesser degree, watching and thinking, those people have gone out of their minds. And we have to say it again. Clearly, the culture war in the West is real, and culture is losing. And Russia is part of the West. And the culture war is now truly part of why we have a war. And it's a real war. So the Russians believe that they have a moral duty, and that they have the highest moral duty to oppose the degenerate ideas, philosophy, theology of the West. And there's something about that that is not wrong.
Listen, to my young homies out there who are frustrated, you're not getting laid, he's not going to get you laid. I promise you. I'm a woman. I know. Please, run away as quickly as you can from this lunatic. He's not going to help you out. Please, I'm begging you. I'm just looking out for you. He's not the right one.
But,
Gee, thanks, Anna.
but,
I really appreciate you. So, are those countries that he's talking about paying attention to what we're doing? Yes. Yes, they are. Are they making policies according to the ludicrous things, or to counteract the ludicrous policies that we've either made or overturned in the past 6 months? Are some of those countries doing that, and some other ones that he didn't mention? Yes. And to and as far as the moral stance that he assumes with Russia, I don't necessarily agree with that completely, but I will definitely say there's credence to it as far as being a part of what he is pushing, as NATO represents the Western influence, and as that has bled into countries and has made things more confusing over time for a lot of people, you know, of the communist factions, the monarchies, the democratic factions, all of them are ruled by people, which inherently makes all of them flawed, and there's still, it's people, and people have a wide range of thinking within the hierarchies and without them, most definitely. No group of people is going to be solidly on the side of their government. There's always going to be factions broken up into. There's always going to be moral reasons or claimed moral reasons why factions make certain determinations. So to pretend like it doesn't have anything to do with our decaying moral fiber, which, by the way, you're not helping, lady. Yeah, it does. You don't have to agree with everything that the man is saying. And you can even think that I'm making excuses for the man. No, I'm simply presenting the fact that a long dialogue over an extended period of time is going to be one of the few things that we can use to help all of us. And the more of us do it, and the more of us that contribute to that, with people you believe and the ones you don't. And you're going to find holes in the things that people say that you believe in. You're going to find holes in that. As you should. It's the only way to fucking grow. It's the only way to help anyone grow. Just because somebody's smart does not mean they're fucking perfect. No one is. We already say and know these things. So let's live up to that. And let's not profess to any one thing, lest we be fucking foolish. Okay, I sounded like I was in the Bible there. Sorry. I do read it a lot. If you don't want to be any more fooled by our own thoughts, if something that someone else says challenges your way of thinking, look into it. Don't be a fool and start talking about their clothes and boxing them into corners that they, putting words in their mouth and all that they never said or professed to. Do your best to try to understand. Guaranteed there is more understanding to be learned from trying to do that than simply criticizing everything because of your own fear and your own, fear-based but willful ignorance. there we are. Alright, we'll move on from here. Alright, well actually, I'll end this with some words, hopefully that promote exactly what I'm saying. As far as the reason why I listen to this guy. Maybe I'll do that with the Young Turks at some point. But here we go.
Perhaps a new election in Ukraine subject to ratification by joint Russian Western observers. Perhaps a pledge on the part of the West to not offer to Ukraine any membership in NATO or the EU that is either not simultaneously offered to Russia or moving forward on terms acceptable to Russia. And if not any of these offerings, then I may be dreadfully naive for reasons I do not know about such matters and therefore wrong in my specific suggestions.
Self-aware,
then something else that will bring peace. And the sooner the better. The Russians are a nuclear power. The Russians have a sphere of influence. The Russians have already integrated into the world economy in a manner that cannot be compromised without devastating global consequences.
And there's always something that he adds, cannot be compromised without devastating global consequences. I hope I said that right. Because they have at least 50% or about 50% of the oil that flows through a lot of the countries, and most of them, which a lot of the countries of this world, and most of which that we have ties to, including us. So yeah, could stop it, could fuck it up, but even fucking them up is going to probably fuck up a lot more things. Like, these are things we need to think about. Not to mention asking ourselves the questions why this war is happening. It is not as simple as any of us thinks it is. I mean, fucking Google that shit, man. Don't take anyone's word for it. Fucking Google it. And you'll figure it out. Like, I'm all for taking talking points from the people you listen to and trying to understand their line of thinking, but understand that those same people read things. So do that for yourself. Read things. When you hear something, read about it. And if you don't want to do that, shut up about it. And then, to your detriment, don't watch any of the things that provoke thought. But if you're going to watch something thought-provoking that seems to influence you in either way, read about it, whether you want to fucking tout it or denounce it. Read about it. And figure it out more. Because I can promise you, even in the clips and everything that I've shown you, I can promise you there's a bigger picture. My things go also through my perception. I also have to question myself. As anyone who has ever been in the public light and has tried to get their point of view across has come to the question of, well, how legitimate am I? And most people want to double down on their legitimacy, especially when something in their legitimacy is found to be less than concrete. And the call forth pretty much nothing but trivia in order to denounce the thing that they fear. Which is very sad to me. Quite pathetic. What was I looking for? Oh yeah, something I wrote down. Yeah, man. Like, I was thinking about this, and it was like, okay, when I concentrate on, like, why I should have more views, why I don't, it's shedding light on my need to validate myself. So, like, when I call that out, and and say like, yeah, don't give me word like if you haven't viewed me, fuck you, go fuck yourself, bro. I mean, that's a rejection of a piece of the way I feel, but it's not the whole thing. And understand that these are done under the guise of satire, and me projecting a piece of how I'm feeling onto a bigger narrative. And I hope that people can understand that while I'm doing it. Yeah. And to be the hero of my own story, which ultimately we want to be. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be that, but I think you need to look at things objectively and realize when you are the villain as well. Like, be the hero, but be the hero that saves yourself. Like, let's look at things objectively and with an open mind if we can. And that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take going back to the drawing board several times and being like, oh shit, I got that. And every time, though, the drawing board gets a bit further along. It's a bit further down the road. You're always going to be getting to uncharted territory. If you learn from the last thing that you did, then the next mistake you make, it won't be all the way back to the last thing you learned from. It's going to be a bit ahead of that. And you use all of those things to help you grow. And am I completely sure of what I'm saying needs to be heard? There's a certain megalomania in even thinking that should be. But I present it because a part of me thinks that it could help. I definitely also would like to make some money in the end, but not superficially and foolishly on something on grounds of what I'm saying is at the very least something I'm learning from and something that could possibly benefit other people. Because if I didn't think that, and I hope, not superficially, I hope I don't come to those terms, but if I do, I will let you know in the future, but at least on a genuine level that it helps other people in a way. Even if it's some of the comedy and some of the satire, hopefully people understand that. But even when it gets serious on podcasts like it did this time, where there's very little to laugh at and just simply much to be observed. So, I just hope that is. And I'll leave y'all with that. I got no quotes for this one today. I'll see you next time, and let's all just try to get better.